including the creative writing course. Sarah also volunteers for the most dreaded of faculty duties with unparalleled enthusiasm. Her promotion folder is currently on my desk, so keep your fingers crossed for her. As a staunch analytic philosopher, I do not feel properly credentialed to analyze her poetry, so I will simply state a personal observation. Her poetry, as well as her personality, has a distinct ability to transform the mundane into a wonderment, reminiscent of what it felt like to be 5 years old when all the world was magic. And I think that that's a priceless thing. And thank you, Sarah. And come up and...
Thanks. Thank you for coming and listening. I'm going to read for about 20 minutes or so and then turn the mic over to Mr. Rob Jackson. So thank you very much, and thank you, Alan. That was really very sweet. This first poem is called A Boy and His Mother, and the only thing you probably need to know about it, and you're probably familiar with this thing before, it's called a Rorschach ink print. It's what psychologists used to use, or I don't know if they still do. It's those little ink blots. They would say, what do you see here? And usually it looks to me like a bird, but unless you say, well, it's a bloody knife, they don't worry about you at all, unless you're a cook or something. So, any case, A Boy and His Mother. After imitating the Rorschach ink prints, particularly the image of, obviously, a bird akimbo, I figure I can draw more than cylinders piled into snowmen, the house with 4 windows, chimney and lawn accessories. Once drawing, I calm as I do during monotony, pedagogy, and laundry. And that means I'm a certain personality. I fear not of grackles that line the telephone wires in spring, but of the need to hold my hand still as a surgeon. And even now I think of the portrait and know it's no bird, a boy in the park trying to hold his mother. This is my weird neighbor poem. I have several weird neighbors, one of which I really don't like. But this guy, I do. He's a strange fellow. So this is called Animal Food. The old man at the end of the complex spoke. Have you seen this squirrel? I paused to consider how they could look differently from one another. This squirrel, he repeats. I think weight or height in the ones I've seen around and ask, is it fat? There's a fat one that digs through my rosemary. I'm inconsiderate, and I ruin the one shot at talking to the man. He looks for it in the shrubs, in his plaid golf shorts and polo. His bald head gets slashed in the wild brush, dried from all summer's heat. He holds out a shelled peanut. Such a small waist it has, and so bosomy. Voluptuous nut the squirrel will cradle. He's a feeder. At night he piles small dunes of cat food along the pavement by his front door. He'd feed an arm to an alligator. I've thought the man to be military once, the way he keeps his small yard hosed, cleared, and the way he looked away when he saw me and my dog coming. I thought him so opposed to dogs. I'd hear him call for his cats, making peeping noises in the darkened golf course greens behind his apartment. Babies, babies. And for the cats, he'd keep a stone rabbit and a gnome outside his door, garden zen-like around his area, raking but hardly watering, not really knowing how to plant or pot. All his grocery store-bought plants the cats use as shade. The dying leaves drooped like leaves on a banana tree. Now, desperate for his squirrel, he needs me and calls to me in that high soprano octave, as if I should come prancing to him. Like a boy, he calls. This is the only poem I've ever written in a workshop that was assigned. They just never work out for me. But this one, I was like, ooh, this is gonna work, because it was a poem in which I was to write back to a poet, and poets often do that. They'll write back to one another, and I thought, ooh, here's my chance to write to Mr. Walt Whitman. I love his craft and his style and his line breaks, but I take issue with his arrogance. So I thought, now I get my chance to really talk to him. So here we go. It's called Talking to God, aka Walt, with an epigraph from Walt Whitman. I celebrate myself and sing myself. No one needs to listen to the yawp of you, mutter powers over grasslands to bathe in dirt you dug from the minerals, the atoms, the children of stars, you built like galaxies you practiced on until you came to you on the seventh day, but you stayed up all night. You've lost your voice, the hawk's right, the party's over. You sing best in the morning as a drunken mute, drinking the yellow of a day you've never met. So there. If you're friends with a writer, they will steal from your life. So, and that's just the way it is. So I stole this, and I don't actually remember if the person I stole it from said yes or no, but oh well, here it is. This is a poem located at Del Mar College, and I did not go to this performance. It was a mother and her son had gone, and I said, "Ooh, can I have that?" And I don't remember. Like I said, I don't remember if she said yes. But here it is. It's called Aria. And with an epigraph, I have so long been away from you. Come closer, come closer. Wolf Performance Hall on Friday evening wasn't full, mostly elderly and suited Asian children. Mother and son are together. Goldberg's variations are in full swing. Two-part toccatas and two voices interplay over an incessant bass line while the pages of the boy's book sound like cardboard as he flips. The minor keys keep folks from nodding off. At the 29th variation, son turns to mother, nearly crying. And three-quarter arpeggios, the heavy chords resolve the melodic trills of the 28th variatio. He's been moved. Hammy died. He points to his lap, to the passage. I've been working on this poem, and I've recently been told by a mentor to stop. It's been 15 years exactly, so that would make me a sophomore in high school when I started, and it's just been an issue with logistics. So it's called Dr. Wolf. My father's a rabbi, and he had done a funeral, well, as he does, and he had actually brought the dead guy home in an urn, and I was 10, and he just decided, and I asked, and he decided to have lunch, and so the guy's been in our basement. He's moved with us. We went to New York, and I always wondered, well, are we going to put him in the moving truck, or are we going to put him in the car with us? So when we moved, so always he went in the car on the floor, so he wouldn't tip over on the seat or something. He's just always been there, and all I know is that his name is Dr. Wolf. So there we go. Dr. Wolf. Heavy he once seemed. My father brought home the doctor after a funeral, then ate a turkey sandwich before putting the doctor in the basement. Eating diminishes the urgency of the dead man on the table. We'd only now met. The man without burial sat while my father chewed through the rye. What else to do but eat the way he always did, still in his funeral suit and muddied wingtips, and consider the family that didn't want the doctor or to bury him. Once I lifted him, and the aluminum underneath sighed. Often now I go into the basement and dab my finger into his ashes to taste his bone meal bits on the leaf of my tongue. When I was a kid, I tried selling leeches, not lemonade, so I was thinking about that, and then I thought, well, I need something else, so a literary allusion would be great. So I thought Chaucer, like one of his people from his Canterbury Tales would actually have bought leeches, I believe. So there was one in particular that Chaucer never finished about this guy named Perkin Reveler, and he was lovely. He was lewd and crude and a real party animal. So it sounds like a really neat guy. So I thought he would be the guy who would purchase one of my leeches. So I brought him into the poem. It's called Perkin Reveler on His Way to Meet the Whore. 5 miles from the Tabard Inn, a girl cooks leeches on silver mailboxes, bikes figure eights in the gravel road, then leans her bike against the dusty leech sale sign propped against a rotted tangle of barbed wire. The leeches bubble, then harden before she peels them from the metal boxes and drops them into mason jars. She crosses her arms and breathes the hot air. Nothing moves outside except the garter snake that stops in the dead grass. All there's left alive, she's nearly cooked. Perkin, with his sleeve rolled to his elbow, his hand gone into the fried mess, digs his stare into her face in a trance while the afternoon crisps. He grips the jar, pulls out 2, drops her 2 quarters, tugs on the burnt meat between his molars, licks the char from his fingertips, and gives the young cook advice. Look me up when you're older. My mother she went to the University of Cincinnati and had ran into a sort of a very famous figure on a path, and he was sort of the epitome of what one ought to be when they get that sort of prestige, very humble man, and I always liked that, and so I thought I would take that and make it a poem. Well, actually, it was kind of a gift poem, so I didn't have. She told me the story. I just had to break the lines. Okay, it's called Meeting on a Path. The moon is hard to walk on and hard to talk on, but there's air on this path when you meet Neil Armstrong. He doesn't look the same as he did on the moon. People look different up close, not all puffy white and bouncing. He couldn't walk very well on the moon. This day, Neil A. has somewhere to go, so do you. But setting is important. Who we meet is important. It is Cincinnati, spring, 1971. You are a student. He is a professor. You both walk on this path, and all he says is hello. Here on this path, Neil A. takes another small step. And this is the last poem I'm going to read. It's in 7 parts. It's about 3 minutes long if you're worried. No worries. So the voice is kind of frenetic, I guess, and you don't need to know anything else. So there you go. In the Attic. Part 1. Once my father had toys. Once Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon and left footprints the way one leapt to the mailbox meant anything was possible. In the attic, I listened to news of the moon, transcripts taped on a machine, mankind, over and over, I rewind. The buttons difficult to press, like teeth, like bones, hard to break, I press play. Plastic tape whistles as it winds, rewinds to mankind. 2. No one's around in the attic. I talk to the machine like Neil A. talked to the moon about mankind. I'll talk about everyone in the attic, stacked like logs, wet bark dripping onto bark, mixing into an armoire, mankind like logs in the attic, saved in boxes. We find ourselves hidden and say, don't look. Then we look back. I really need to want to go back. My pictures are my father's pictures, our first birthday, cake all over the face, ducks on cards who love you, who don't anymore. The ducks are old newsprint. I want to see his pictures. My father's brother died of cancer, now curable. Now we can get to the moon, too. No big deal. We will die. We will fly to the moon. Stop the tape. 3. Someone will tell me I'm going to the moon, as if I'm losing my mind. The attic space where D-Day is kept yellowing in the Times. My father's toys, which he played with in the attic. These attic things toss dust. I move dust and somehow I've destroyed the attic. Did Neil A. destroy the moon? The tape rolls, nothing moves. Put living purple flowers down on a stone and they will stay still, same color. I open a box that says don't open. Papers from high school. My father got a B-, saved it to disintegrate to moon dust. It all stays still where I leave it. Say something to a grave and get no response. Say something to a tape and let it record what I know. Once my father had toy guns. I sit and click them in the attic. They still shoot. In a black and white photo, he shoots at the cameraman who shoots back. Once my father watched Neil A. play with the moon dust. Once my father had a brother. Not right now. I put everything back where I found it. 4. Once I eat breakfast, I let it go down. There's no turning back with Cheerios. It becomes a meal for any time. Things can happen any time. My father had a brother once. My father played when he wasn't a father. When he was playing, he was young. When he was young and playing, he had a brother. He had a brother who played. He had a brother who stopped playing because he had cancer. Someone put the cancer in the attic with the moon news, the B-, the toy gun. I will bring the cancer out of the box. I will find it. I stop the tape to play in the kitchen. Cheerios tool around the Wall Street Journal, hipper than the home of the bowl, until I snatch one, stealing the features. The Journal tells me the Challenger exploded. Did someone press the wrong button? I press rewind to mankind. I play with old transcripts in the attic. I play with my breakfast. I will put the Challenger with D-Day in the attic, let the news ink absorb into itself, let the dead mingle, tell each other what happened right before it happened, right before shit. Last words, remember to say something, tape it. Forget this ever happened. I put the Cheerios back where I found them. 5. What games do I play? I rewind to mankind in the attic. I play with my breakfast in the kitchen. My father played. I found his games in the attic. My father played games with his brother. They played toy guns. Once my father had a brother. I found my father's brother in the attic. I'll tell you what I know. I know my father whistled and held onto his gun holster, and all the photos and boxes left loose like playing cards. My father played. He pretended. I know my father had a brother. I found his appointment book, black, in the attic. Every Saturday he went to New York. Every Saturday something happens in New York. Do you remember last Saturday? My father's brother died of cancer in the attic. He played with toys. He ate breakfast. He found mankind once he died. The Challenger isn't so bad once it turns yellow. The bits of tape people exploding shifts into pieces like shifting boxes to find something else. A toy gun, an appointment for treatment of cancer for New York for Saturdays when it seems someone found something to help save it all. It's not so bad to turn yellow, leap to the mailbox in front of neighbors, shout mankind isn't so bad instead of hello. Whistle to block the crash of cancer, the flight to New York, the whistle of tape winding over Neil A.'s speech. Where were you when the Challenger exploded? Whistling down the block. 6. I hold my breath while the machine records. My face grows red. I want to know what it's like to be in the attic with everything else that stopped except when they restarted, as if I could keep the cancer appointments in the book, the ones from 40 years ago. I'll go to New York and tell the doctor it's Saturday, help me. He'll ask me for what? What happened? I want to tell myself what happened. With the gun? No, that was for play. My father played while his brother died. With the Challenger, it didn't get all the way there. I open my mouth, breathe, press stop on the machine. Everything else holds its breath. Thank you.